A lot of times, when I talk, people cry. Seem to be for the same reason. You know, most of you know, Jean and I just got back from England a couple of weeks ago. We went, got to visit a lot of it, but primarily to visit our son, Benjamin, who sends his love and says hi to all of you. He's doing great. While we were there, we did go around to see a lot of, and of course, they have tremendous amounts of history, and a lot of that history has to do with religion in England, and it's very bizarre how they go about it. We went to Bath and had a tour. We didn't take a bath, that's a sin. And they told us about this cathedral there, and that there used to be an even bigger one. When the Saxons came in, they were Christian and built this huge, wonderful cathedral. But when the Normans came in, they couldn't have a Saxon cathedral, so they tore it all down and rebuilt another huge stone cathedral, which was there for a few hundred years until this bishop came in and saw that they were all corrupt and not doing things right, and he had a dream that God told him to build up the church, so he had them tear down the whole cathedral and rebuild it with statues on the outside showing his dream, in effect. So they kind of go about religion in a strange way. Henry VIII, of course, who couldn't get a divorce and get remarried, so he broke off from the Catholic Church, and we visited several beautiful monasteries, only they were beautiful walls, because once he changed and broke away from the Pope, he went in and destroyed all of these monasteries, of course, took all of their treasure, took out the beautiful windows and took out the lead, and then tore off the roofs so nobody could go back. It's a very strange approach to religion that they have. We went to Winchester Abbey. It's the biggest inside cemetery I ever saw. I don't know if many of you have been there, but there are hundreds of people buried everywhere. They have these little side rooms you go into, and you can barely fit in there in an aisle one person wide, because there will be a big mausoleum, and then there will be big stone sarcophagus, and then there will be statues of the people buried there. You're walking on people everywhere you go. It's interesting, but it did give me a good idea about funding our church. I'll talk to you. But it is Mother's Day, and I want to talk about the feminine principle, and for me it is crucial, because I'm the executive director of a nonprofit. And for those of you who don't know, no matter what your job description is, the executive director of a nonprofit, your job is to deal with every dirty little problem there is. That's basically it. If it's finances or legal issues or staff having problems or board members or people you're serving or the public, the executive director's job is make it all right. Go in and deal with all of this and fix it. And so when I come home at night, it's the feminine principle that makes it so I can go back the next day, because Jean provides this loving home that takes me in, and that's what it's about. Although I have to tell you, I did see another manifestation of the feminine principle in England, because part of the time we did rent a car, and you know you have to drive on the other side of the road there, and I did that most of the time. And on occasion when I didn't, there was a different manifestation of the feminine principle that said, "We're going to die! Get on the other side of the road!" And so it does manifest manifest itself. And, you know, to me, Stonehenge, though, which we visited, and we got to take that special tour where you go inside it, which was just phenomenal. And that's about the feminine principle. Because the way that, from all of the information they have, they would make this long procession, the people who built it, and then they would come inside to the center of that, with these huge, massive stones surrounding you. And right inside, of course, like at the solstice, is where you would see the sun through these stones. And you know, I thought about this, and being inside there, I pictured myself there and said, you know, this is the feminine principle. This is the return to the womb of the universe. The return to the center. And we know how important that is, to return to that center. It was in the teachings of Jesus. In John 3:3, he said, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven unless you are born again. Now, he was saying that to a man named Nicodemus, who said, well, you mean I have to shrink back down and go inside my mother's womb? It doesn't really talk about it, but Nicodemus was known for smoking funny herbs and stuff. But, you know, that comes out because we don't understand it. Of course, we get these Greek translations. But in the Aramaic that Jesus spoke, it does not say born again in the sense of being physically reborn. It says born into the beginningness. Born into the beginningness. Because in the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says, when you were one, you became two. But on the day that you became two, then what will you do? And that is what the people from Stonehenge were trying to answer. Because what we need to do is go to that beginningness. Now, we looked at things like Stonehenge and other places in England that were 4,000 to 5,000 years old. But I'm going to take you on a bigger trip to the beginning. I'm going to take you right now to the very place in time where the universe is being created. So prepare yourself, and we're there. Because, of course, the universe is being created, both spiritually and physically, right here and right now. And this is said in many ways. First of all, the Higgs field tells us this. And we talked about that a little while ago. They just discovered, or rather verified, the existence of the Higgs particle, which people call the God particle and drive physicists crazy. But it means the verification of the Higgs field. And the Higgs field that I've talked about before is a field of potential energy. Potential energy. You don't measure anything there. And yet it is everywhere. I mean, not all around you, all through you, in the walls. It is everywhere at all times, and it creates constantly. Particles come out of existence from nothing, and they are created. And it has more energy than imaginable, unlimited amounts. And the Tao Te Ching tells us, hold to the mystic female. For you can utilize this energy and it is inexhaustible. So what does all of this tell us? Let's go back here. We have people 4,000 to 5,000 years ago at least, and of course probably much longer, realizing that we need to return to the beginning. We need to go back into that womb of the universe. We have Jesus telling us over and over in many places, return to the beginningness. We have the Higgs field that we know is here, which is unlimited potential creative energy. We know that the creation is occurring right here and right now. And so the answer to when you become two, what do? You return and become one again. And the way you do that is to return to this beginningness. And how do you do that? Well, one of the answers is in the Tibetan Book of the Dead. I'm sure you all realize that that would be the key. But what the Tibetan Book of the Dead says is that when you die, your spirit goes off towards nirvana, to perfect peace and love. But when it starts out, demons jump out. Horrible, frightening demons that scare the soul. And typically, the soul runs back and is reborn into pain and suffering and this dichotomy of things. But if you are prepared, if you are properly prepared, when your soul goes out and those demons attack, it knows that they're an illusion and it goes on past them. Now, like so many wise spiritual teachings, such as the teachings of Jesus, people think they're about the dead. Spiritual wisdom isn't about the dead, it's about the living. And do you think the Tibetan Book of the Dead isn't about the living? Every time you go out to try to accomplish something, do demons jump out and stop you? Do they jump out and say, you're not good enough to do that. Go on back. You know, you don't deserve that. Go on back to where you were. You're not smart enough or good enough or deserving enough or whatever.
Cute enough.
Well, they wouldn't say that to me. But these demons are literally there, and what they do is scare us back into this world of dichotomy, this world of good and bad, and I can and I can't. Yes. So how do we get past that? How do we see the demons for the illusion they are? You live a life of confidence. That's what I say. You live a life of confidence. Now, Jean tells me, Bob, you're confident all of the time. You're really confident. And she says, tell me kind of your personal thoughts about that. And like all men, I don't tell my personal thoughts. So, Jean, I'm going to tell you right now. The rest of you can listen in. Not those other personal thoughts. I mean about confidence. I have negative thoughts all the time. I don't have positive thoughts all the time. Those negative thoughts come in, you know. When I'm jogging, I have all these thoughts, these scenarios that go through my mind if I'm on a long drive or just daydreaming. I mean, they can be about things that are going to happen, and they can be about things that happened in the past or just imaginary things. And these negative things that could happen come in. But you see, confidence, I realized, is not a state of mind. Confidence is a mental discipline. Because what I've done over the years is I do not allow it. Do those thoughts come in? Absolutely. I will not allow myself to think them. Good for you. Now, I'm not saying I disregard reality.